Where were you in '62? American Graffiti wasn't just a nostalgic trip through teenage car culture. It was a bare-knuckle rebellion against the Hollywood studio system, and nearly didn't get made. Behind the cool cruisin', neon lights, and rock and roll soundtrack was pure chaos. Cast members stormed off set, cars crashed for real, the budget nearly collapsed, and the studio almost shelved it altogether. This is the untold story beneath the drag races and drive-ins. These are 20 weird facts about American Graffiti, the movie that made stars, broke rules, and changed cinema forever. And don't miss the bonus fact at the end. It involves a famous filmmaker who nearly destroyed the movie before saving it. Buckle up and hit play. Let's roll. 1. George Lucas. Nearly got fired from his own movie. Before American Graffiti, George Lucas was a struggling filmmaker with only one movie under his belt. Universal executives didn't trust him. They assigned producer Ned Tannen to oversee the project and even considered firing Lucas mid-shoot. Why? Because Lucas refused to shoot traditional coverage. They claimed he didn't know how to direct actors. What they didn't realize was that Lucas was pioneering a more naturalistic style, using long takes and overlapping dialogue to create realism. His minimalist direction confused the suits. It wasn't until Francis Ford Coppola stepped in as executive producer, threatening to buy the film himself, that Universal backed off. Without Coppola's protection, Lucas might have been booted from the film that made his career. 2. The studio thought the film was too white. Universal executives panicked after early cuts of the film. One executive reportedly asked Lucas, "Where are the black people?" Not out of diversity concern, but because they feared the movie would flop without urban appeal. They wanted scenes added with soul music and African-American characters, even though the story was set in Modesto, California, in 1962, a town with very little racial diversity at the time. Lucas refused to compromise historical authenticity. He later said, "I wasn't making a political statement. I was making a personal one." The studio's discomfort nearly shelved the project before test screenings proved it had massive crossover appeal. 3. The whole movie was shot at night. And it was brutal. Every scene in American Graffiti takes place between sunset and sunrise. That meant the entire production shot on an inverted schedule for 28 straight nights. Cast and crew started their days at 6 p.m. and wrapped near dawn. Actors slept during the day and got sick from the unnatural rhythm. Lighting was a nightmare. Cameraman Haskell Wexler had to drop out, citing exhaustion. The punishing schedule left the cast delirious. Ron Howard later said, "It was like living in a vampire movie." The night shoots added authentic glow, but almost broke the team making it. 4. George Lucas. Made the cast cruise in character off camera. To get the authentic vibe of teenagers cruising on the strip, George Lucas forced his cast to live like their characters, off-set. He told them to drive the real hot rods around San Rafael and Modesto in character every night. That meant Richard Dreyfuss had to act anxious and nerdy in public. Harrison Ford, playing bad boy Bob Falfa, wore a cowboy hat and drove a black '55 Chevy around town blaring rock music. Locals thought they were real troublemakers. Lucas wanted the cast to bond with the cars and each other, so by the time cameras rolled, the line between actor and character was already blurred. 5. Harrison Ford was drunk during most of his scenes. Harrison Ford wasn't supposed to be in American Graffiti at all. Lucas originally passed on him because he didn't want to cast professional actors, but Ford showed up to the audition wearing a cowboy hat, exuding raw attitude. Lucas couldn't resist. Still, Ford didn't take the role too seriously. He refused to cut his hair and spent most nights drinking before scenes. In fact, Ford later admitted, "I was drunk in every scene I shot." It worked. His performance as Bob Falfa was magnetic, swaggering, volatile, and unpredictable. Even wasted, Ford stole the screen. The famous '32 Ford Deuce Coupe was found in a junkyard. The yellow '32 Ford Deuce Coupe, driven by John Milner, wasn't a show car. It was a wreck. The production team found it rusting in a junkyard and rebuilt it for the film. It had no seatbelts, no air conditioning, and barely passed California road inspections. But the car became a star in its own right. Customizer Richard Ruth turned the heap into an iconic rod with a lowered frame and roaring V8 engine. After the movie, collectors begged to buy it, and replicas popped up nationwide. Today, that Deuce Coupe is considered one of the most famous cars in movie history, and it almost never left the junkyard. 7. Suzanne Summers' only line was nearly cut. Suzanne Summers plays the mysterious blonde in The White Thunderbird, a vision of unattainable beauty. Her character only appears briefly, mouthing the words, "I love you," from her car. But the line was almost removed. The studio thought the moment felt too vague. Lucas fought for it, arguing that the mystery made the character powerful. Ironically, the lack of dialogue made Summers unforgettable. That one whispered line, more imagined than heard, sparked countless debates about youthful longing. Summers later said that the scene changed her life. 8. Ron Howard didn't want to be in the movie. Ron Howard was hesitant to join American Graffiti because he feared being typecast. At the time, he was best known as Opie from The Andy Griffith Show, and he didn't want another wholesome teen role. George Lucas convinced him by pitching the film as a poem to growing up. Howard agreed, but insisted on more subtlety in his character, Steve. During filming, Howard helped rewrite some lines to make Steve less cartoonish. Ironically, it was this performance that helped launch his directing career. Years later, Howard would say, "American Graffiti freed me." 9. Richard Drifus almost died on set. In one scene, Richard Dreyfuss's character Kurt tries to jump into a moving car. It looks like a harmless gag, but it went wrong. The stunt driver mistimed the move, and Dreyfus slipped, nearly going under the rear tire. Crew members screamed. Lucas cut the camera and ran over. Dreyfus escaped with only a bruised hip, but he later said it was the closest he'd come to serious injury on a film set. The shot was rescheduled, with a dummy used for the wide angle. That quick moment of teen mischief nearly turned deadly. 10. The movie was almost called Another Quiet Night in Modesto. Before it became American Graffiti, the film had a different title, Another Quiet Night in Modesto. Lucas loved the title, but Universal hated it. They argued it was too specific, too boring, and wouldn't sell tickets. Studio execs pushed Lucas to rename it to something edgy. After several rounds of rejected ideas, someone suggested American Graffiti as a metaphor for the messy, rebellious imprint of youth. Lucas agreed reluctantly. Ironically, he later credited the title change as one of the best decisions I never made. The strange name became iconic. You're not even halfway through this wild ride. So go ahead and like and subscribe, because the truth behind American Graffiti is just getting crazier. From shattered noses to secret cameos, let's keep cruising into the weirdest facts Hollywood never told you. 11. Paul Lamat broke someone's nose in a real fight. Paul Lamat, who played the rebellious John Milner, had a temper both on and off set. During a break in filming, another cast member reportedly mocked his method-acting approach. Words turned into shoves, and then into a punch. Lamat allegedly broke the guy's nose. The incident was quickly hushed up to avoid studio interference, but it caused serious tension among the cast. Dreyfus later described Lamat as volatile but magnetic, adding that the on-set energy was always just a spark away from exploding. That intensity made Milner so believable, but it was dangerously real. 12. The police shut down production. Multiple times filming in San Rafael, California, proved more difficult than expected. Locals complained about the constant noise of revving engines and loud 1960s rock and roll at night. Police were called repeatedly. One night, the city pulled their filming permit entirely. The crew scrambled to find new locations, eventually moving production to Petaluma. Lucas had to renegotiate permits almost daily. Ironically, the police in the film, who are portrayed as ineffectual and out of touch, were part of the real-life chaos, too. Every night was a gamble between rolling camera or rolling handcuffs. 13. The film's music budget was more than the film itself. The American Graffiti soundtrack features nearly 50 rock and roll hits, from Buddy Holly to the Beach Boys. but securing the rights to all those songs was a nightmare. At the time, music licensing wasn't standardized. Every artist, publisher, and estate had to be negotiated with individually. The total music rights cost $90,000, more than the entire $77,000 production budget. Some songs were nearly lost due to licensing delays. Lucas insisted the music had to be original 50s and 60s recordings or the film wouldn't work. He bet the entire movie's tone on that gamble, and won. 14. George Lucas. Didn't want. Opening credits, Universal fought back. Lucas envisioned American Graffiti beginning with the hum of neon and the roar of engines. No credits, no names, just the world unfolding. But Universal demanded traditional opening credits. Lucas refused. A standoff began. Finally, a compromise was reached. Credits would roll after the opening diner scene, giving the audience a moment to be pulled into the story first. Lucas would later use this same trick in Star Wars, where the iconic scroll replaced opening titles entirely. American Graffiti was the battleground where Lucas began reshaping Hollywood's narrative structure, one credit at a time. 15. Cindy Williams was almost recast for being too funny. Before Laverne and Shirley made her a TV star, Cindy Williams played Laurie in American Graffiti. But during early rehearsals, Lucas worried she was upstaging the male leads. Her comedic timing, ad-libs, and bold delivery clashed with the film's subtle, naturalistic tone. Lucas even considered recasting her, but eventually found a solution: cut some of her punchlines and shift her scenes to focus more on emotional realism. Williams adjusted quickly. Her performance became one of the film's emotional anchors, showing the tug-of-war between youth and adulthood. Ironically, the woman, too funny for Lucas, would soon become one of TV's biggest comedy icons. 16. The ending scene was shot before the rest of the movie. The famous What Happened Next epilogue, where each character's future is revealed, was actually shot before principal photography began. Why? Because Lucas feared the movie would get canceled mid-production. He filmed the text inserts and final dialogue scenes first, so the story could at least be completed if funding dried up. It was a risky move, but it paid off. The epilogue shocked audiences. Killing off one character in Vietnam and showing the fates of others gave the breezy film a sudden punch of reality. It wasn't just about cruising, it was about time running out. 17. One car really did catch fire. During filming. In the drag race climax, Harrison Ford's Chevy rolls off the road and crashes. That moment wasn't entirely staged. During an early take, the engine overheated, caught fire, and began smoking for real. Crew members panicked as flames licked up through the hood. Fortunately, fire extinguishers were on standby. The car was damaged but repairable, and they kept a portion of the accidental fire in the final cut for realism. That unplanned inferno added raw danger to the climax, and nearly sent Ford's career up in smoke, literally. 18. The movie was shot. Almost entirely without permits, Lucas, working with a tiny budget and a rogue mentality, decided to shoot most of the film guerrilla style. That meant filming without proper city permits or road closures. Camera crews hid in trucks. Lighting rigs were disguised as traffic poles. If police showed up, the crew would scatter. Some shots of cars driving the strip were done with real pedestrians in the background, completely unaware they were in a movie. This renegade style gave American Graffiti its documentary-like realism. It wasn't polished, it was stolen from real nights, real streets, and real youth. 19. Wolfman Jack refused to appear, then changed his mind, mid-shoot. Wolfman Jack was the voice of teen rebellion in the 60s, but he didn't want to be seen on screen. He insisted that his mystique as a disembodied voice on the radio was too important. Lucas agreed, until he didn't. He surprised Jack with a scene where Richard Dreyfuss's character meets him in person. Jack refused at first, but eventually relented, delivering a charming, self-deprecating performance. That scene became pivotal. It shattered the illusion while preserving the magic. The myth met the man, and audiences loved it. 20. Lucas was paid. Only $20,000, but made millions from merchandising. Universal paid Lucas a flat $20,000 fee for directing American Graffiti. That's it. But Lucas had learned from Coppola. Always keep sequel and merchandising rights. Universal, thinking the film would flop, gladly gave Lucas those rights. After the movie became a hit, Lucas made millions from re-releases, home video, and soundtrack sales. More importantly, the deal set the precedent for his Star Wars empire. American Graffiti wasn't just a hit, it was the blueprint for a merchandising revolution that would change Hollywood forever. Bonus fact: Universal tried to bury the movie until a legend intervened. After screening the first cut of American Graffiti, Universal executives were horrified. They called it a boring mess and planned to dump it as a TV movie. George Lucas was devastated. But then, Steven Spielberg watched it. He told studio heads, "You don't get it. This is your Easy Rider. Release it properly." Coppola also offered to buy the film himself and release it independently. Faced with two of the most promising directors in Hollywood vouching for Lucas, Universal changed their minds. They gave the film a theatrical release. The rest is history. The movie they tried to bury became a box office sensation and cultural touchstone. American Graffiti was never supposed to succeed. It was too small, too weird, too nostalgic. But that's exactly why it struck a nerve. It captured not just a time and place, but a feeling. The last summer before everything changed. It launched the careers of Lucas, Ford, Howard, and Drifus. It transformed the way soundtracks worked. It proved that authentic stories, shot fast, cheap, and from the heart, could conquer Hollywood. So the next time you hear a golden oldie or see a hot rod cruise by under the neon, remember, American Graffiti didn't just reflect the past. It made it eternal. If this blew your mind, hit that like button, subscribe for more behind-the-scenes madness, and tell us, where were you in '62?